All right, just a really quick JayMac Snack here with some breaking news. If you haven't heard yet, the Supreme Court that so many were hoping would rescue President Donald J. Trump and grant him 4 more years, they have ruled in the Pennsylvania case.
All right, welcome back here on After the Bell. We just had some news come in from the Supreme Court of the United States, and the Supreme Court has denied a request that was coming in from the Pennsylvania Republican Party to intervene in an election dispute. This was the Ted Cruz case that you may have heard about over the last couple of days, where Senator Cruz had said he was willing to argue before the Supreme Court. They're not going to hear this case, which was challenging the certification of Pennsylvania's results. Of course, Joe Biden, the president-elect, the winner in Pennsylvania, and this just solidifies that further with the Supreme Court denying the request from the Republicans.
Just solidifies it further. For a president who likes to win, how many times are you going to lose before you call it quits? Now, to be fair, this was not a lawsuit filed by President Trump. This was a lawsuit filed by an elected official in Pennsylvania. And this was a case that I've talked about before in a JayMac Snack. This was a case challenging the constitutionality of sending out no-excuse mail-in ballots. And I think that had they filed this lawsuit when the legislature changed the law, that they would have won this lawsuit. They would have won it in the lower courts, and it wouldn't have needed to have gone to the Supreme Court. The problem is that was about 1.5 years ago, and they didn't challenge it then. And in fact, a lot of Republicans ran under the new rules with the new mail-in ballots, the no-excuse ballots, and they didn't decide to file any challenges until after the loss of Donald J. Trump. And that is why it was thrown out, because there is a timeliness requirement by the courts. And if you don't file within a certain amount of time, and then you even try and take advantage of those laws, well, you simply don't have a case. And the Supreme Court indicating that what they're being asked to do here was pretty wild, that there was no justification for it. And the other thing to note, there was no dissenting opinion. So there wasn't one of the president's 3 Supreme Court justices that he has nominated coming out and saying, well, I see it this way, or I disagree with this decision because of that. Now, that would seem to indicate, we don't get to see inside the halls of the Supreme Court, but that would seem to indicate that they were unanimous in this decision. Now, the important thing to note here is that there are similar challenges from Georgia and Wisconsin and a couple of the other swing states. And so in ruling on this one case, they have sent a message about all of those other state constitutional challenges. They're not going to go anywhere, and there does not appear to be a rescue on the horizon for President Trump. And the other thing to note is today is Safe Harbor Day. We've also talked about that. And today is the day that all of those certifications become official. And once they are official, there's really no going back. And then on December 14th, the electors will vote based upon the certification that happens today. So really, for all intents and purposes, today was the day that this needed to happen. It's one of the reasons why the Supreme Court gave their ruling today. They actually moved up their calendar so that they could make this ruling today. And I'm just wondering what the spin is going to be from the diehards. What is it going to be now? Is this all part of the genius plan, the plan to play 3D chess? And again, what I'm hoping will happen is that those people who have been believing the president, who have been claiming that he has evidence, and he has not presented that in the courts, I hope that they will realize that they've been getting played. But that's not what's going to happen. This president is not going to concede, ever. He's going to maintain until the day he dies that this election was stolen, even though he failed to make a case in any court of law that I'm aware of so far. And so you're going to have millions of people walking away feeling that this was a stolen election and not having faith in the electoral process. And why? For a man who just couldn't admit defeat. And my friends, that is one of the most important parts about our country and our Constitution. The peaceful transition of power, the laying down of power by one, and the taking up of power by the other. This is one of the most beautiful and most important parts about our country. And we're not going to see that this year because the man who lost power can't concede. He can't give it up. And he's willing to throw the entire electoral process under the bus for the sake of his own ego and his own personal gain. I hope that the diehards see this for what it really is. But I got my magic 8-ball here. We all know what's really going to happen. And this is going to continue to be ugly for some time. Wish it wouldn't, but that's the reality. Take a minute, please, and scan one of those QR codes that you see on the screen, a monthly donation or a one-time donation to help keep this podcast going. I want to do podcasts like this one where I can actually report on the news just about right after it breaks. In order to do that, I can't be off working other jobs. I got to be right here monitoring the news and bringing it to you as quickly as possible. So if you can help me out, that would be fantastic. Or check the description in wherever you're viewing or listening to this podcast. With that, have a wonderful day and more to come on the JayMac podcast.